What's up, you guys? We're headed out to Baku, Azerbaijan. I'm hearing it's known as the Paris of the East. Did a little bit of diving into the city, and it was quite impressive. If you guys want to go check that out. We have a 3 p.m. Eastern time zone main card starting time for this card, okay? So this is a daytime card, at least for us here in the States. That's always good to see a little change of pace. You're going to be able to catch at least the main card on ABC. This will be a nationally televised event. By no means would I say that this is an extremely stacked card, but there's some solid matchmaking, and a lot of the fighters that we're going to be talking about are under the radar. Okay, they have solid skills, they're extremely talented, but they're not necessarily known to the masses or to the casuals. Okay, but there's some real talent on this card. I don't understand why the UFC tends to put these types of cards together for the ABC events or for the more mainstream televised events. I kind of noticed a trend like that as of recently. They had another event that I could think of that comes off the top of my head. I think it was in Abu Dhabi or Dubai. That was that headliner between Robert Whittaker and Ikram Alekseeva. It just confuses me a little bit why they don't push more fighters to these types of cards that would gravitate or translate a little bit better to the casual folk. Okay, I mean, for us hardcore fans, we got no problem with it. All right, I mean, we're loving these types of matchups, but I think some of you guys know what I'm saying, at least as far as it goes here in the States. Now, the main event's not a bad one. Jamahal and Khalil Roundtree, a light heavyweight scrap. Two fighters that are figures in the division, right? Both of them have been fighting for gold. Jamahal actually was the champion at one point in time. It's kind of crazy to think. Khalil Roundtree just fought for the belt. Both of them recently took L's to Alekseeva. Now, Jamahal is going to be fighting with a little bit more desperation, in my opinion, because after losing to Alekseeva, he then lost another fight. He was finished against Yuri Prohaska. It was a great match, very entertaining one. Jamahal once again showed that he's an absolute warrior, but he doesn't want to lose 3 fights in a row. Okay, so you have to assume there's some kind of desperation going into this matchup. And real quick, I'll just highlight what's going on in the light heavyweight division, because we still do not have a matchup for the newly crowned champ, Magomed Ankalaev. There still hasn't been an announcement there that there's going to be an immediate rematch between Pereira and Ankalaev. And I would like to know your guys' thoughts. Do you guys think that immediate rematch should happen? I personally would like to see a new matchup between Ankalaev and Prohaska. I think that Prohaska is quite possibly the most entertaining fighter in the fight game, especially when you're talking fighters in the upper weight classes. I mean, he's just a stud. He brings it every time. I would love to see how a fight plays out between Prohaska and Ankalaev. Not to say that I wouldn't mind to see the rematch between Pereira and Ankalaev, even though I thought that Ankalaev decisively won that fight. Okay, but Pereira's been putting in work, so I mean, I wouldn't argue with any of you guys that say he deserves the immediate rematch. Besides that, Carlos Oberg's on a tear. He's been winning a lot of fights, but he's coming off a lackluster victory against the former champ in Jan Blachowicz, and a lot of people actually had him losing that fight. All right, it was a close one, but I don't think that many of you can argue that it was an entertaining one. At that, I don't think that Oberg really brought the fight, so I definitely have him on the back burner. Besides that, you got to mention Dominic Reyes, a fighter that many believe, okay, and I'm throwing out a lot of controversial statements here. I'm sure I'm bothering some of you, but a lot of people believe Dominic Reyes defeated John Jones a while back, right? He took those first 2 rounds. It's debatable if he got one of those last 3. He definitely slowed down, but Dominic Reyes is now on a 3-fight winning streak, and his name has to be up in the mix. You cannot overlook Azamat Mirzakhanov, who's still undefeated. He's 15-0. He just went out there and finished up Brendan Ribeiro. Of course, that was not the initial matchup that he was supposed to have. He was supposed to go out there and take out Johnny Walker, but you still got to give him credit for showing up and getting another finish. And besides that, I'll just mention the Mountain Tiger, Minyang Zhang, who is 19-6, but since he's came into the UFC, he's been making some quick noise in the octagon. Now he's 4-0. Not a lot of big names under his belt just yet, but he looks the part, man. For a big fighter like he is, he moves very well, and I mean, he has more work to put in, but I want to throw his name in the mix, that we will potentially see him in some big fights moving forward. All right, so that's what's going on in the light heavyweight division. Hopefully I didn't completely overlook anybody. You guys give me your thoughts there. We're going to jump into the Baku fight card right now. If you're new here, guys, please subscribe to the channel. If everybody could smash the like button, go follow me on my social media. Real quick, if anybody wants to work with me for the official targets that I will be targeting for this card, you guys can reach out to me. I'll give you further details there. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the first fight, work our way all the way up to the main event. I'm going to analyze the betting lines. I'm going to give you guys my predictions on how these fights are going to play out. All right, guys, I'll leave you with that. Let's go.
The teller.
Now, a lot of you guys will remember I just spoke about both of these fighters as they were both supposed to be fighting on a card that took place just a couple weeks ago. They had different opponents. Seokhyeon was not able to make the fight against Billy Ray Goff due to visa issues. Oban Elliott was supposed to be taking on Ramiz Brahimaj. Brahimaj then gets matched up with Billy Ray Goff. The rest is history. As you guys know, he came through as a big dog, had the submission. Now, that was very frustrating for me because I had an underdog play locked in on Ko against Billy Ray Goff, and I do believe that Ko would have went out there and got the job done. And for the record, I think that Elliott would have went out there and had taken care of Brahimaj. Okay, so Brahimaj really had things fall in his favor as he got that new matchup there. Now, this will not be the first fight of the event. There's no way the UFC does that. This matchup is too much of a treat for it not to be up the card. But since it was recently announced, I'm diving into it first. It's somewhat of a striker versus striker matchup, but I shouldn't just throw that out there like that because Oban Elliott has a judo base and his grappling is high level. Also, we've seen some real development coming from Ko with his wrestling skills, but I call it a striker versus striker type of matchup because that's kind of how I see this fight playing out. I think that both of their grappling skills will kind of nullify themselves. Maybe we see Elliott get some takedowns, if anything, possibly. But I really do expect these fighters to trade on the feet, and both of them have pretty high level striking. Ko, not so much proven, right? He hasn't fought as high level of opponents as Elliott has thus far, right? He's coming off that victory over Igor Cavalcante, that huge Brazilian at DWCS. That's where he got the contract. He was a huge underdog in that matchup. Besides that, he has a lot of knockouts, okay? But he's also been knocked out twice, including by my boy Sasha Palatnikov, okay? So he's been knocked out in both of his losses. That's a problem here, okay? Because Oban Elliott is dangerous, and he's coming off a big-time knockout victory over Basil Hafez, where I believe he's starting to show he's taking his game to another level. And when you take into consideration he's just 27 years old, okay, I mean, this fighter's going to look better and better. And, I do have Oban Elliott getting the job done here, even though I was very high on Ko, and I still am high on Ko, right? Like, I had him as an underdog in that last matchup against Billy Ray Goff. This is a different matchup here, okay? Billy Ray Goff is not the same type of fighter as an Oban Elliott. He's not moving the same. Oban Elliott is technical. He's dangerous. I talked about the judo base there. He's well-rounded. He's kind of a career mixed martial artist. He's been training, fighting from a very young age, and I think that this is a fighter now that we have to keep an eye on. Now, he does have a lot more to prove as well, okay? I mean, you're not going to jump off your seat when I ring off the list of victories that he has as far as the level of opponent. Basil Hafez, Preston Parsons, Val Woodburn, and Kike Brito on DWCS. I still will say that list runs a lot stronger than the list of Ko's. So, and then just when you break down the tape, you got to go with Elliott here. We'll dive into the betting line. Elliott is a big-time favorite here. He opened up as a minus 245, and now he is a minus 415 as I'm recording this. Big action coming in on him. I'll just say this. I really like Elliott, and I like him to get the job done, as I said, but don't forget, Ko was a similar underdog to what he is here in that last fight, and he looked pretty damn good. It's just really hard to rate that victory as Igor Cavalcante, although he looks very intimidating, and since that loss has bounced back with more victories. He's never lost to anyone else besides Ko. It's just the fact that he's been fighting very low-level fighters as well, so I don't think that he is on the level of an Elliott. I'm going to say that Oban Elliott is on a whole different wavelength than both of those fighters that we're talking about there. Oban Elliott goes out here, gets the job done. I say he gets a knockout. I say he gets a knockout victory. As far as the betting line goes, I mean, the line, it's creeping up and being a little high. You got to put a little bit of respect on Ko's name based on the fact that he has shown that he will go out there and show up as a dog. Korean Zombie has really given a lot of praise to the abilities of Ko. Okay, and we saw how that went at UFC 316 when he was putting in a lot of praise to another fellow Korean fighter. He went out there and had a phenomenal knockout over Jekka Sergi. So just understand that some of these Korean fighters that are coming in from that scene are fighting at a high level. For my final stance, I will say that the line is just accurate. I think all that action coming in on Elliott is warranted. It's an accurate line, and he should be about a 4-1 favorite. I think that this will be a fighter that really starts to make some noise in this division moving forward over the next couple of years. Now, if this one doesn't get you out your seat, I don't know what will. We have Irina Alekseeva taking on Klaudia Syguła. Okay, this is a high-level bantamweight matchup over in the women's side of things. And again, I'm just throwing a little sarcasm at you guys. Got to remind you guys that I like to do that once in a while. For some of you stiflers, you don't catch on to that. All right, Alekseeva and Syguła, this is obviously a very low-level matchup. Okay, both of these fighters bring in not a lot of amount of pro experience, with Syguła at 8, Alekseeva at 7. Besides that, they've been fighting very low-level opponents. They both have a common opponent, and Melissa Mullins, formerly known as Melissa Dixon. Alekseeva was able to make it to the final bell. We'll give her credit there. And let's not completely overlook her UFC debut, which, although it happened kind of quickly and you could say it was a little fluky, you got to give her credit for pulling off that knee bar against Stephanie Egger, who is a decently polished fighter, right? She comes in with the judo background and all that, and she's looked decent at times. I mean, that's a respectable victory, much more respectable than anything you're going to find over on the Syguła side. So when you look at things on paper, these last two fights look a lot better than when you're looking at Syguła, who was finished in the second round by Mullins. She looked completely in over her head inside the octagon, right? She was flattened out. She was like a fish out of water. It was very concerning. You also take a look at the other experience that she has. It's against very low-level fighters that were making their debuts, fighters with losing records. Okay, you could pull up tape on a couple of these fights, and she has gone out there and used grappling to kind of just dominate the fight, like smothering some girl that just doesn't even know what she's doing. You could bring that up just because you don't want to forget what happened to Alekseeva in her last fight against Mullins, where she was controlled down in the mat for 8 minutes and 15 seconds. Okay, that was a little alarming there. You take a look at the strikes. They were, as far as the significant strikes went, they were pretty even. And I'll say this: Irina Alekseeva is a fighter that is very sloppy with her striking technically, but you'll give her credit for being tough and feisty. Okay, if you hit her in the mouth, she's going to come at you. She'll be the aggressor in this fight, in my opinion. And the only way she takes an L here is if all of a sudden Syguła takes a massive leap in her abilities, and maybe we see Alekseeva fall on bottom position and she's not able to get up, and we see Syguła replicate what she did to those girls over there in Europe in the low-level stage. But I just don't see it. I think that Alekseeva, if anything, will have a trick up her sleeve down on the mat and could find a submission down there. I could see her more likely getting on top of Syguła and grounding, pounding her, or finishing her up in some type of way, or just having more control time. And on the feet, I think that she'll be the aggressor there. So I do like the aggressiveness of Irina Alekseeva, but this is a low-level fight. I don't say it with a lot of confidence. Okay, this fight, you never really know what's going to happen in there. But the most confident thing I could say in a matchup like this is that Syguła hasn't shown anything really to warrant fighting in the octagon, besides the fact that she's a looker. Okay, I get it. I hope she could put it together. I would love to see her bless the octagon often, but she needs to show us something. Now, Irina Alekseeva opened up as a minus 210. She's now a minus 230. Some slight line movement going that way. I think that it makes sense to an extent, but I wouldn't really recommend that you're chalking up minus 240, 250, 260 type of lines on Alekseeva. It's not really my style. I don't know. Kind of torn on that though, because I do believe that Syguła is probably going to get exposed once again. So maybe you cap it off right around minus 250. That's kind of where I have it. Like I think the 230 line, maybe you could reach that. Once you start getting over 250 and you're in the upper 200s, I think that you may be reaching. But I would not be surprised also if this line goes that way. I could see Alekseeva settling in as like a minus 280 favorite. But we'll see here. One other interesting factor I just want to throw out there real quick is that Syguła, even though she's 26 years old, she's been fighting longer than Alekseeva has, at least as far as amateur bouts go. And she's actually been in the cage or in the ring fighting from an earlier date than Alekseeva, and she has more experience. She has a good amount of amateur experience as well. So you throw that into the mix against the 34-year-old Alekseeva, but I still think Irina takes this fight. And I'll say she gets a finish. Syguła's been finished in both of her losses. I think this one will be a sloppy one. I could see Syguła get put in a vulnerable position where she's finished once again. We'll head over to a heavyweight matchup between Mohammed Usman and Hamdy Abdelwahab. Now, if you guys remember, Hamdy just made his long-awaited return back to the octagon in that last match against Jamal Pogues. It was a controversial decision as well. Another split decision victory for him in the UFC. Now, he was coming into that fight off a long layoff because he failed a drug test, and it was a legitimate failed drug test. He was taking the real deal performance-enhancing drugs. It took him about 2.5 years from that Dontel Mays initial split decision victory that was overturned to return to the octagon. And I mean, he looked decent. Don't get it twisted, though, even though this is a former Greco-Roman Olympian and he has the wrestling credentials and he's kind of an entertaining fighter and a solid addition to the division. This is not a fighter that's going out there and dominating. Like I stated, he's coming in off of essentially 2 very closely contested matches that he won via split decision, and a lot of people had him losing. Now, one thing that I like that he brings to the table is that aggression. Okay, but when you're watching Hamdy in the cage, he's usually the aggressor. You saw him in that Pogues fight. He was screaming at Pogues, and I think that had a lot to do with the judges swaying his way. He was the aggressor. If you remember, he was cursing at Pogues as Pogues was trying to use his typical fighting off the back foot, peppering up the opposition from the outside, trying to win a decision, which he's quite good at. Okay, so you give Hamdy some credit there for having moments where he closed the distance and landed some strikes, although he was outstruck in that fight. Okay, if you run the numbers back, he was outstruck 44-69 on significant strikes. All right, again, a controversial decision. Okay, but you do like the fact that he's aggressive. He should be the fighter that's marching forward here, although Usman's aggressive too, so we'll see how that works when they clash. Now, that aggression that Hamdy brings to the table will be very important here because although I know it says here that they both have a 74-inch reach, that is incorrect. Usman is somewhere more around a 78 to 79-inch. He has a 79-inch wingspan. So you definitely want to see Hamdy making things ugly, getting in on the inside, clinching up against the cage, using some tactics that he used against Dontel Mays in that UFC debut performance. And I think that those could come in handy for old Hamdy. But I do have this as being a close fight. Usman hasn't really shown too much of a flaw in his takedown defense and grappling. It's not upper level. It's not elite. But when you really take a look at his resume, even in the Thomas Peterson fight that he had, he was only controlled for a minute, and he was taken out 2 times on 5 attempts. I mean, I don't think that he has a glaring flaw in that aspect of his game, or at the very least, I could see him defending Hamdy there for the most part. So this is a fight that I have playing out closely. Usman's tough. He's a big athlete for this division, but if you look at his victories, besides the Zach Payuga fight, which he was a dog and he was an underdog, he came in and he pulled off the upset, landing a big strike. He's still not that technical, though. Payuga made a mistake. He got caught with the big strike. Besides that, he's went in there and has taken advantage of lower level fighters or more one-dimensional fighters like Junior Tafa. I don't think that he'll be able to do that here. I think that this fight will play out similar to what we've seen from both of these fighters as of recently. It'll be a closely contested match, but you'll see Usman being on the losing end, and you'll see Hamdy kind of squeak by with another decision here. I say that he continues the undefeated streak. He should have the crowd behind him, probably have a little bit of edges as the fight goes to the judges' scorecards, which we've seen him benefit from, or just benefit from the judges in general in the UFC so far. So I will side with Hamdy to win this fight. I'm going to say that he wins a split decision. I'm going to say the fight plays out pretty closely, which would obviously point to me not feeling there's a lot of value on a minus 195 line on Hamdy. I think that the value is on the underdog, okay? I know some of you guys don't like that, man, but this is how we analyze the fights here, okay? We analyze the betting odds, and I do think that Hamdy sneaks by with the decision here, but coughing up 2-1 odds on that, I don't think there's a lot of value there because maybe the split decision goes the other way. I think the value is on Usman. We have a rematch set to take place in the women's bantamweight division between Darya Zheleznyakova and Melissa Mullins. Melissa Mullins did prevail the first time they fought over in Aries. It was before both of them kicked off their UFC careers. Melissa was known as Melissa Dixon back then, if you guys want to pull up any tape on that fight. Now, Melissa Mullins did get the finish with just 1 second left in that first round. As she was raining down ground and pound, she TKO'd Darya there. But understand that in the beginning portion of that round, Darya had a lot of success with her striking. She was getting the better of the striking. There was a lot of bloodshed in that fight. This is kind of a stylistic matchup, if you ask me. I think that Darya is going to want to keep this fight standing and use her striking, and I think we're going to see Melissa look to close the distance and try to have success with her grappling. I really don't rate Melissa striking that highly. Okay, when you take a look back at the Nora Cornol fight, that was one where we saw her really get outlanded and eventually finished. Okay, when she struggled to get the fight down to the mat, she was kind of a fish out of water. I'm not saying that her striking is completely limited. She has some skills there, but I do think that Darya would get the better of a straight striking type of affair. I feel confident in saying that. But at the end of the day, you guys know what kind of fight this is. This is a mixed martial arts bout. And I do expect Mullins to come into this fight with a lot of confidence behind her after the way that she just ran through Klaudia Syguła using her grappling skills, using that ground and pound. Of course, based off the fact that she already has a victory over Darya using her grappling and her ground and pound. And then also, even when you take a look at Darya's one victory that she had in the UFC, which was 2 fights ago against Montserrat Rendon, that was a fight where she was taken down three times on 6 attempts, right? She was taken down 50% of the time, which is not really a great marker. Yes, she won that fight because she was at times able to keep the fight standing and use her striking. She outlanded Montserrat 73-28. But I think that Melissa is going to have confidence that she will be able to close the distance at one point in time in this fight and have a lot of success with her grappling. If she's not able to get this fight down to the mat consistently, or if she's not able to hold Darya down on the mat when she gets her there and do something significant with it, she could be in for some trouble here. You have to be a little careful because Darya is 29 years old. There is room for growth, and you know there's a hunger to get redemption, and she knows what she has to have been working on. She has to keep this fight standing. She understands that. I'm sure she's been working diligently on that aspect of her game. So just take that into consideration there. We take a look at the betting line. Melissa Mullins opened up as a -250. She's now a -245. Minuscule line movement. It'll be interesting to see how far down this line comes, because I do expect it to trend that way. I think that Melissa Mullins probably settles in. I'll just throw this out there. Maybe she settles in like around a -210. I think that the line will close a little bit. Melissa still should be the favorite. It's completely understandable. I think it's slightly risky if you're targeting this type of line, but if Melissa comes down enough, then I actually do believe that Melissa is targetable, right? Especially if you catch her in the upper -100. So I would love that if you caught her around like -180, 190. I do like having a grappling advantage going into a fight, especially with a fighter that's proved she can go out there and take advantage of that said fighter before, right? If she's done it before. So we'll see how this fight plays out. I think that Melissa Mullins this time is going to win a decision. I don't think that she's going to get the finish. I think that she'll win a decision based off some control time and raining down some ground and pound. We got the number 12th ranked flyweight fighter Tagir Ulanbekov taking on Azat Maksum. And I just want to quickly slide over to Tapology's flyweight rankings. I like it because it shows you the bouts that are scheduled to take place here in the near future. You guys know I love me some flyweight action. Okay, I haven't said that in a while. I used to say it so much your guys' ears were bleeding. I'll throw that out there again. You guys know I love me the flyweight division. I can't believe Dana was thinking about getting rid of it. But Alexandria Pantoja, the champ, is taking on Kai Kara-France on June 28th. That match doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but things played out that way. But Brandon Royval is taking on Joshua Van. If you guys haven't heard, that's on that same fight card. That fight is going to be epic. Of course, if Royval wins that, and really, you could almost start to say the same thing for Van if he wins that fight, even though he's younger in his career. But specifically for Royval, if he wins that fight, you got to believe that he's right up in the mix to be fighting for the belt. Or at the very least, he's having a number 1 contenders bout, you would think. Okay, but I guess it's not that simple because you have fighters like Manel Kape that's waiting to make some noise. I believe that he may be the best flyweight fighter on planet Earth, as you guys know I've said. And just the reason why I bring this all up, and I'll just throw out there real quickly too, Tatsuro Taira is stepping back in there. August 2nd, he's taking on Amir Albalzi. I think that Taira has real potential. He's still young. Give him some time to marinate and grow. But the reason why I bring this all up is because I believe that Tagir Ulanbekov is a hell of a fighter. And if he has a couple things fall his way, or if he makes some right moves in the octagon, this is a fighter that could be fighting for the belt down the line. He's 33 years old. All right, he's had a lot of success in the UFC, and I don't think that his career really has played out as beneficial as it could have. Okay, this is a fighter that I think that should have really been more active throughout the years, and it should have made a run towards fighting for the belt already. There's been some periods of time in this division where the UFC was looking for a #1 contender, and they had to just throw somebody in there. I mean, I guess like what's going on right now with Kai Kara France. The Tim Elliott loss definitely threw him back. Some people thought that he won that fight. It was a close one, but it was not his best day. Since that loss, he's bounced back with now 3 victories in a row. I thought that he looked really good against Clayton Carpenter, a young fighter that's talented. And we know what Tagir brings to the table. All right, he's long, he's well-rounded. It's the grappling skills that really pay dividends for him. Now, when you're talking Azat Maksum, who's 30 years old, this isn't a bad fighter. He recently took his first loss against Charles Johnson. You take a look at the numbers on that fight. I mean, he was outstruck 2-1 there. Okay, he only hit 2 takedowns on 7 attempts. He was actually taken down 2 times as well. He was controlled for 47 seconds. Charles Johnson's an underrated fighter, but I think that kind of pumped the brakes on Azat as far as his hype went. If you didn't already pump them after his debut performance against Tyson Nam, which was a split decision victory. That one played out closely. In that bout, he showed he's well-rounded. Okay, we saw some wild hip tosses, and we also saw that he's flashy with his strikes. He'll throw flying knees, and he's pretty dangerous there, which is kind of good if it goes to the judges' scorecards. But I don't think that a lot of what he was getting away with against Nam, I don't think he'll be able to get away with that against a fighter like Tagir. And I actually think that Tagir can take advantage of those types of tactics. Okay, Tagir is much more fundamental, and I think that he'll close the distance, and he will have more success in this fight. I think that Tagir Ulanbekov gets the job done. I'm going to say he wins a decision, just being the more polished and well-rounded fighter. I wouldn't be shocked if it played out somewhat close, but even then, I feel comfortable in saying that Tagir wins this fight. I think that he's really coming to right now. I think that he's the best version of himself. And you take a look at the numbers, Azat is there to be hit. Okay, I mean, these numbers, it's not a coincidence that these numbers look like that. Of course, they're skewed a lot from the Johnson fight, but even in that debut fight against Nam, run the tape back on that fight, you saw his head bouncing back quite a bit, and it's not a good look with the old floppy-toppy Georgia bowl cut. Okay, when that hair is dusting around in the wind, the judges don't like that. You guys remember Uriah Faber called that out years ago, and it's actually very true. It's not a good look when your hair's flopping around, and Tagir, he's got the Dennis the Menace, boy next door type of hair. It's a little bit more crew cut, a little shorter. It won't flop around as much. And it's also definitely noteworthy that Tagir was supposed to be taking on Kyoji Horiguchi, right? A fighter that fought in the UFC way back in the day. He fought for the belt against Demetrius Johnson. He's had a lot of success fighting over in Asia. He's a dangerous flyweight fighter. Okay, Tagir is the fighter here that had the initial date set up. Azat is taking this fight on short notice. He was just starting to get his training camp going as he was supposed to be taking on CJ Vergara all the way down in August. So you got to take that into consideration here. I like Tagir to get the job done. He opened up as a -245. He's now a -285. We see action coming in his way. Makes complete sense to me. I could see Tagir settling in right around a -380 by the time that they step into the cage. I think that we'll continuously see action come in on Tagir, and I think that it's warranted. I think that he's just a very safe fighter. He's a very polished fighter. In the flyweight division, you don't see as many finishes as well, right? So hopefully nothing crazy happens in there if you're backing him. It's a little less likely to happen. I think Tagir wins a decision. What's going on, guys? I appreciate y'all for tuning in, especially you long-time listeners, man. You guys mean the world to me, but also you guys that are stopping by that are new, man. If you guys could smash that subscribe button, I hope you guys tune in regularly. Hope to meet you all in the comment section. Give me some feedback. You guys know I always will meet you there, or I'll at least do my best to meet you guys there. You guys all mean the world to me, man. You guys allow me to do what I love to do, which is being here, talking fights. All right, guys. If you can, smash that like button, subscribe. It helps me take my channel to another level. If you want my official action for this card, if you guys want the official bets that I am targeting, all right, my best bets for this event, don't forget, you guys can reach out to me through email or DM me on Instagram. I'll give you further information there. And you could also sign up through my referral link to Bovada. If you guys do that, I'll give you my entire slate for free. Don't hesitate, guys. Reach out to me. At 185, we have Ismail Naurdiev taking on Jun Young Park. If you guys remember, Naurdiev had an initial stint with the UFC that kicked off when he was just 22 years old. There was a lot of hype behind him based off the fact that he came in and took out a veteran in Michel Prazeres. Prazeres was always fun to watch because he was so short and stout. It looked comical when he was in the cage. But make no mistake, he was talented and dangerous. He was hard to defeat. And we saw Naurdiev show a lot of the flashy striking ability that he has. And I think that's why that early hype came in on him. That was shut down pretty quickly, though. If you remember, as a favorite, he lost to Chance Reencounter, which the hard-nosed wrestler with good cardio broke him down. We saw there were some holes in his game. He bounced back with the victory over a lower-level CR Bahadurzada. But after that, takes another L against Sean Brady, showing that he was lacking with his grappling. The UFC cuts him. I remember being a little surprised when the UFC cut him because I thought that there was still a lot of room for growth, and I thought that he still could have got his feet wet in the octagon with some better matchmaking. But the UFC, they let him go and let him get some experience. And although he's shown some flashes since leaving, it really hasn't been all smooth sailing. Okay, there's been some tough L's going on. In fact, he's lost 3 times since departing from the octagon, and he was finished in all 3 of them. He was knocked out twice. Recognizable names like Vadim Kutsi, who just worked his way through Dana White's Contender Series into the octagon. He was submitted in the first round against Marcin Bandel. And you got to kind of be a little bit alarmed by those performances because it's not like he's just losing closely contested matches. I mean, he's getting finished up early in those fights. And yeah, he's had a couple victories and he's worked his way back in the UFC, but he just went out there and defeated Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva has not been looking good. I mean, we saw how he just looked against Marc-Andre Barriault. Okay, he outstruck him 2-1 in that fight, almost 3-1. Essentially, he had a couple of takedowns. He looked great. I just don't know how much merit you put into the Bruno Silva victory. On the other hand, Park has just been a proven fighter in this division. He had the little hiccup against Muniz, but it was really based off the grappling of Muniz as he controlled him for almost 10 minutes in that fight. It wasn't the striking, so Naurdiev is not going to bring that element to the fight here. And besides that, there's been a lot of W's going on. And even when you look back at the UFC debut of Park against Anthony Hernandez, which he was submitted at the very end of the second round, that was a fight that Park was winning. Okay, if you guys remember how that fight played out, he was looking very good off the rip against a younger Anthony Hernandez, and he showed the ability that he has. And speak of Marc-Andre Barriault has a victory over him. And I just think that Park still has a lot left to offer the fight game, or maybe not a lot left, but he has something left to offer the fight game. He's 34 years old. He's more well-rounded. Okay, he has wrestling skills. He has nice, crisp boxing. And I just put my trust into him more so than Naurdiev. You look, yes, Park's been finished a couple times, but I think that Naurdiev will be a little bit more vulnerable to being finished if we see a finish in this fight. I mean, you could say Naurdiev is more of a fight finisher, at least with his knockout ability, but Park has more sub skills. And I just think that Park is the more proven vet here. Okay, he's the real proven UFC fighter. Naurdiev still needs to prove that he's really warranted to be fighting in the UFC at this point. I do say that. He needs to string off some victories and really prove himself that he's an octagon fighter. And I like the volume of Park. As you see the numbers here, he pumps the jab very nice. He has one of the better jabs in the fight game. And I won't be too long-winded here, man. I like Park to get the job done. Now, he opened up as a minus 220. He's now minus 225. I see some slight movement coming his way. He's over a 2-1 favorite. It's a little high. You got to be a little cautious here. I do believe that because Naurdiev at 28, he's starting to get some momentum behind him. Maybe we see him take that next step, and he's a flashy striker. Maybe this is a fight that plays out closely. Some of Park's recent wins, even though he gets the job done, some of them have played out kind of close, if we're being honest, right? When you think of the victory that he just even had over Brad Tavares, that was a very closely contested striking affair. Maybe Naurdiev can replicate some of that. I still will favor Park getting the job done. He potentially could get a knockout, but I'll take him to win this fight via decision, and not too much value on that betting line, in my opinion. We're talking main card action, boys. We got Myktybek Orolbai taking on Tofiq Musayev. Fights taking place in the lightweight division. This is going to be a good one here. Musayev makes his UFC debut. We've seen him battling over in Ryzen and in Bellator throughout the years. He's a former Ryzen champ. He's a dangerous man. Okay, we're going to get to the betting odds here in a second. And there's a reason why this line is a lot closer to what we've seen Orolbai come into his more recent fights at. And speaking about some of those lines that have been next to Orolbai's name, how about how he came in as a big-time favorite against Mateusz Rebecki, and Rebecki pulled off the upset. That was one of the bigger underdog official plays that we cashed on in over here. Okay, we got Rebecki, if I remember correctly, like up in the plus 280 range or something like that. It was up there, and Rebecki was coming in off a little bit of turbulence, and that's why we were able to get a bargain line. But I just don't understand why people were overlooking the abilities of Rebecki, because he's a very talented fighter. It wasn't even necessarily that I was looking to fade Orolbai, because he's looked really good. He went out there, dominated Uros Medic in his UFC debut, pulled off the submission, went out there, followed that up with the victory over Elvis Brenner. I mean, he's showing some real potential, even though he looks like he was born in 1000 BC. He was actually born not too long ago. He's just 27 years old. Okay, he's a youngster. Okay, and I say that joking around, but it is kind of crazy that he is only 27. I mean, there's a lot of room for growth here. Okay, but in the Rebecki fight, we saw when you're able to stuff the takedowns and make it a war. Okay, he's vulnerable to taking an L. Right, he's not invincible. Okay, and when you break down tape on Musayev and you see what he's about, this is a well-rounded fighter. This is a fighter that has wrestling abilities. Don't expect him to just flop to his back. He's very scrappy with his striking. And in fact, I think that if this fight plays out to be a war, I think that he could have a lot of success using his striking. All right. He's battle tested. Yeah. He was recently finished against Alexander Shabli. That's a very talented fighter that was fighting over in Bellator throughout the years. He was submitted by Roberto de Souza. I mean, there's some L's going on here, but he also has some respectable victories against a multitude of former UFC fighters like Johnny Case, Damian Brown, Darren Cruikshank. The Patricky Pitbull fight was very impressive because he went through early adversity. He showed he could push through it and get stronger as the fight progressed. And I think that he's going to be live in this fight. I really do. I'm torn on which way I want to go with my decision. I'm going to give you guys a pick here in a second. You just also quickly note the finishing ability that he has. You take a look at all three of his most recent victories that took place over in Bellator and Rise, and he's getting knockouts, okay? Knocked out Sydney Outlaw in just 27 seconds. And then he just had back-to-back KOs over in Ryzen as he comes into this fight. So there's some momentum coming behind him. And one of the biggest factors in this fight, something that is completely not to be overlooked, is the fact that Musayev will be the first fighter that's fighting on the card representing the hometown of Azerbaijan. Okay, I think that if this fight even plays out somewhat close, that's going to be a major advantage for him. But we also saw that Orolbai wears damage pretty rough. Okay, we saw him bloodied up and bruised up in that last fight. And I think that this is a fight that could play out close enough that I'm going to lean towards the fighter that's going to have that hometown edge here. I am. Okay, I mean, this is a risky pick because Orolbai has the grappling skills to potentially go out here and really prevail in that sense. Okay, don't be surprised if that happens. Orolbai is live to get a sub or to really control this fight down on the mat. But Musayev, he just doesn't really show to just lay on his back. All right, he has great cardio. He's very aggressive, and I think that he'll work. I think he's going to work in this fight and let this fight play out somewhat close to the fact that to the point where he could sneak off a decision. I'm going to say he wins a split decision. I'm calling another close one here, a split decision victory for Tofiq Musayev. It's a risky pick here. This might be the start to me picking a couple of dogs as we cruise through the main card. Let's see how this goes, but let me know what you guys think. I know some of you guys will be hard on me for the pick here, especially if Orolbai goes out here and dominates, which could be, it's always a potential factor when you're talking about a high-level fighter like that. And I know he's hungry coming in off the loss that he just had, but I got to stick with my gut here, man. I can't be a chicken and retreat on my instinct, which was taking the hometown fighter who represents Azerbaijan with the first ever UFC event taking place in the country here. Mohammed Naimov takes on my boy Bogdan Grad. If you guys are new here to the channel, or if you guys haven't caught it in the past, Bogdan Grad, a fighter that I really root on here on the channel, as we did a live stream for his fight on Dana White's Contender Series. It was an official play that I gave out to everyone that works with me. Got it at great odds, and it was one of the best fights that I've ever seen on DWCS. He prevailed via split decision against Michael Aswell, a fighter that's really proving to be quite talented, if you ask me. If you saw Aswell just make a UFC debut, called up on short notice, going up a weight class, I thought that he took that first round against Balajioki. Okay, so if he didn't gas out, I mean, you see the abilities of Aswell. And after that, Bogdan Grad just had a UFC debut fight against Lucas Alexander where he prevailed. He got the finish in the second round. Now, Lucas Alexander is a lower level fighter, but Bogdan looked really good in the bout, finished him up in the second. Bogdan landed 3 takedowns in the fight, had about 4 minutes of control time. He outlanded Alexander. But, I'll be honest, I don't put too much merit into the performance just based off the fact that I think that Lucas Alexander is a lower level fighter. Okay, it's a great debut win just to get it in your pocket, but now this is a big step up in competition when you're talking Naimov. There's just no question about it. Now, Naimov has had his own ups and downs. All right, when you really dissect his resume, okay, Felipe Lima, we all know now this is a high level up and coming fighter. Okay, but he broke down in that fight, kind of gassed out. He got finished, and Felipe Lima took that fight on short notice and came up in weight. If you go back to the DWCS fight, we saw Naimov slow down in that fight against Colin Anglin, a lower level fighter. That really cost him. The cardio issues in that fight cost him. He took an L against Oliver Murad, I believe the Haitian fighter there, who I've seen fight live over in Titan FC, and a fighter that never made it to the UFC. I mean, took an L back in 2021 there. Okay, now I would say his real standout fights are the two victories he had over Jamie Millarkey, just in the fashion that he did it in his debut. And then the Nathaniel Wood victory, just based off the fact that Nathaniel Wood's very high level, and Wood was off on the night. He kind of, I mean, I guess it's easy to say he was off on the night, but Wood really talked about the fact that he was kind of mentally messed up in that fight, and there were some things that could have easily played out the other way when you rewatch the tape. But at the end of the day, you give him credit for that victory. I just don't think that Naimov is as high level as maybe he's getting credit for. As we take a look at the betting line here, I mean, I think that this is still a questionable fighter. He's going to be dangerous early on, but I do believe that this is a fight that could play out very closely. Grad has an amazing fighting spirit. He's decently well-rounded. He has a lot more to prove. Okay, he has defensive flaws. I'll be the first to admit it. Right, this guy has defensive flaws. He gets tagged up, but he looks to land on you. As you hit him, he's looking to land on you. I could see Grad being the fighter that thrives in the later rounds here. This is going to be a tough match for him, but I got to root for my boy here. And the reason why I'm going to pick Grad, right, because I never want to sit here and give you guys information or predictions just based on the fact that, like Grad, if I didn't really fully dive into it, if you didn't know, like I've talked back and forth with him. He DM'd me after I did my whole stream and I did some posts. He DM'd me and said, hey, I want to thank you. He sent me a whole paragraph. I want to thank you, very much for all the kind words and everything that you said about me, this and that. So he's a great dude, okay? But I don't want to ever pick a fighter just based off that fact. Here's the point I'm getting at. As we get to the betting odds for this fight, I really do believe that Grad is live as a plus 178 underdog, right around a plus 180. He is a lot more live than that line is stating. I think that this is a line that should be closer. There's value on him. Yeah, I could sit here and just pick the favorite, Naimov, who has proven more, without a doubt has proven more, but I think that Grad can have success late in this fight, and I'm going to pick the dog here. Okay, Grad's young, just 29 years old. You could expect that step up and his skill set, as you could say the same for Naimov, he's not over the hump. He's a young fighter, but something tells me that this fight will play out closely, and Grad has done good in those close fights, and he digs deep, and I'll take the Warrior and my boy Bogdan Grad, who's going to be, paying close attention to my fight predictions on IG, and he'd be mad at me if I picked against him, but eventually I will have to pick against Grad. I mean, there's just no question about that. This isn't a fighter that's going to make a run at the title. But I just don't think that Naimov is that fighter that I have to be scared to pick against here. Value is on the dog. And I'll say Grad wins a split decision. I'm calling another split decision. I expect we're going to see a lot of them throughout this card. Another fighter representing Azerbaijan, and Nazim Sadykhov. He'll be taking on Nicholas Mota here. This fight's a real treat. This fight should play out to be a striker's delight. I expect this to be a war. Nazim Sadykhov shows big-time power, as does Nicholas Mota. So you have to believe that the finish is somewhat live, even though Sadykhov has shown to be very durable. Mota, on the other hand, has been knocked out a couple of times. So, in my opinion, if we do see a KO, yes, I do believe that it would most likely come from the Sadykhov side. Now, if this fight goes to a decision, as I mentioned, Sadykhov representing Azerbaijan, I do believe that's a big advantage that he has, but you can't necessarily just say because he's the hometown fighter, he's going to get a decision victory. He has to do something in this fight. And as we get over to the betting odds, which we will in a second, I'll just let you know right now, Nazim is a big favorite. Okay, he's like a 4-1 favorite. And I think it's important that you know that as we talk about this fight, because for him to be a 4-1 favorite, all right, just take this into consideration, right? In his UFC debut fight against Evan Elder, which was one I had an official play and we cashed. Okay, I was not crazy at what I was seeing as the fight was progressing. He was being outstruck. he did get the W based off the fact that the fight had to be stopped. There was a doctor stoppage due to the cut in Evan Elder. Okay. After that, he looked great against Terrence McKinney as he eventually got that fight down to the mat. Things started off a little slow for him, but he eventually did what he did there. But you take a look at the Slava Borishev fight. Okay. That was one where if it wasn't for a 10-8 round and the second, Derek Clearly and Chris Lee gave him a 10-8, which was definitely warranted. You see the media scoring here. Everybody had this fight as a draw. Definitely is how I scored the fight, even though there was one MMA media giving it a 29-28. I don't understand how he didn't give the second round a 10-8. Nazim did serious damage in that round. But rounds 1 and 3, even round 3, after all the damage he did in the second, okay, he gets outstruck. He drops the third round. And the volume has been a little bit of an issue for him at times. We've seen him frustrated in that sense. And you take a look at the Ismail Bonfim victory that he just had. That was a doctor stoppage as well, where Ismail said that he couldn't see, so the fight was stopped. But if you actually take a look at the numbers in that fight, it was Bonfim that was outlanding him 26-13. Yes, Nazim is more of a power puncher and looks to land serious damage on you, and you got to give him credit for that. But as a fight progresses, like if that fight didn't get stopped, I really believe that Bonfim would have eventually took that fight over if he wasn't damaged. Okay, I mean, it's a what if, but the point being is that, you have to have a clear sense of what's going on with Nazim. He's very talented. Of course, he trains over there with Sarah Longo and a lot of talented fighters up in the northeast of the States, and he's a fighter that's fun to watch. But I just think that you have to have a real idea of who he is as a fighter. He's a fighter that struggles at times with volume and winning rounds to rounds. I do think that he's an absolute knockout artist, and he'll go out there and he'll get a lot of finishes. He's fun to watch, and I have him getting a finish in this fight. How about that? I do believe that he's going to finish Mota. I think that he's going to get a finish via strikes. I think it's going to be a wild one, but I don't necessarily believe that he should be a 4-1 favorite, and I think that Mota is more alive than that line states. And you just take a quick look at what Mota's been doing. He's 15-5. He's kind of got back on the horse as of recently. He had the big knockout, the upset knockout over Tom Nolan, bounced back with the decision victory over Mahashate. We talked about the issues that he has, though. He gets finished at times. Manuel Torres KO'd him. Jim Miller KO'd him. Even if you go back to some of his earlier fights, even before he joined the UFC, he was knocked out over in Chuto, Brazil by Antonio Carlos Ribeiro. Robert Hale knocked him out back in 2018. There's issues with him being finished. Okay, that's the point I'm making here. And Nazim is a fight finisher. I think that he rises to the occasion and gets a finish. But if he doesn't, if this fight goes to the judges' scorecards, I like the fact that Nazim will have the crowd behind him and the judges behind him. But as far as really watching the fight and breaking down the fight and just putting that all to the side, I think that this is a fight that would actually be a lot closer than maybe some believe to be. Right? If this fight was maybe taking place in Brazil or something, maybe you see a strong lean towards Mota's way if the fight went to a decision. Okay, but with the fact that it's in his home country and all that, and the fact that I just have him getting a finish, give me Nazim Sadykhov to build on some recent momentum that he has, and once again be an entertaining fighter to watch. In the heavyweight division, we have Rizvan Kuniev taking out Curtis Blades. This fight once again set up. Unfortunately, it fell through twice. As of recently, Blades fell ill. The first time the bout was rescheduled. And right off the rip, right, I've already broke down this fight, so I'll make this one a little bit quicker. But right off the rip, one of the more important things you have to note, and something that you're going to want to keep an eye on moving into the fight, is the shape and the physique of Rizvan Kuniev. Because he is a fighter that has had his physique show massive changes fight to fight. He's also a fighter that has popped for performance-enhancing drugs, right? Over in the PFL, if you guys remember, he really popped for a lot of stuff. I mean, this is a dude that's definitely, gone that route, if you will. But essentially victories over fighters like Renan Ferreira, Hugo Cunha was the fighter he defeated on Dana White's Contender Series. I think that in that fight, he showcased that he's a very well-rounded fighter, but he's a very calm and composed and technical striker. Okay, especially for a fighter just working their way into the UFC from Dana White's Contender Series. Okay, you can't really look at him as like that type of fighter. This is a polished fighter that's fought in PFL, and he's technical, right? He's composed and he's dangerous, and that's something that you have to take serious if you're Curtis Blades, because Curtis Blades has been finished very often, right? You take a look at his 5 losses. Got knocked out against Tom Aspinall, which Aspinall In my opinion, I'll say it again. I think he's the greatest fighter on planet Earth right now. I think you put him in a room with anybody, I think he's the man that walks out. Some people believe John Jones is. Hopefully we'll be able to get an answer to that one day. But he got knocked out by Sergey Pavlovich, knocked out by Derek Lewis, got KO'd by Francis Ngannou. And he was also TKO'd by Francis Ngannou the first time. That was due to a doctor stoppage. The eye was messed up, right? He shut the eye and all that. So, but essentially he's been finishing all of his losses. And I think that if he struggles to find success, changing levels, which I think that's very likely, that he will be in threat of being finished. Now, he'll also be a threat to finish you because Curtis Blaydes has power. You take a look at his 18 victories, he has 13 KOs. Yeah, a lot of them do come by way of ground and pound, okay, but he also can throw heavy on the feet, and I think that he could hurt Kuniev there. But if Kuniev shows up on the scales looking just as good of shape as he did when they already squared off, because these fighters already squared off for a bout that was supposed to take place a couple weeks, couple months back, if he's in that kind of shape, and he's serious and motivated, he's 32 years old, I think that he's very live to win this fight. And I can't swap my pickup now. I mean, yeah, the easy route could be to say, hey, Curtis Blaydes, the number 5th ranked heavyweight fighter in the world, the more proven fighter, gets the job done. And that's, that's one way you can go. But here I am, and I got to stick with my initial pick, and I'm going to side with Kuniev. I am going to side with Kuniev. I think that he is a lot more alive than where this line is. Curtis Blaydes right now is a minus 270. Okay, the comeback on Kuniev is as high as a plus 225. He's a plus 220, and I just don't think that that's an accurate line. I think that that is based off the fact that people don't really exactly know who Kuniev is. He has more to prove, but rewatch that fight on DWCS, which he looked more out of shape for than when he was on the scales the last time for this Blaydes fight. Okay, he looked out of shape, but even then, you see the skill. You see how he's composed, and volume could be a little bit of an issue potentially, but I don't know. This is a heavyweight bout. Is volume going to be really a big factor in this fight, or as much of a factor? Or, is somebody going to hurt the other fighter here and really take this fight or take rounds by hurting somebody with a significant strike? I kind of see something like that playing out. Give me Kuniev to get a finish. Give me, man, look at me, man. I'm shouting dogs out over here. Give me Rizvan Kuniev to get a knockout in this fight and pull off a big-time upset. And then the final fighter representing Azerbaijan on the card, the number 11th ranked Rafael Fiziev. He's widely known as one of the more technical and dangerous strikers in the fight game, at least throughout the years he has. And a lot of that comes from the fact that he is a striking coach, or was a striking coach over at Tiger Muay Thai. And, he's had some big KOs. He's taking out Ignacio Bahamundes, who is just 27 years old. And can we just tip the hat to Bahamundes here real quick, because he has been coming through for me as a dog left and right. He's been cashing in official plays for me. You think about the Manuel Torres fight that he had, got the first round finish on the big UFC Sphere event. You think of the submission victory that he just had over Jalen Turner, putting money in our pockets here. And the fact that he's 27, that is what makes him so interesting and makes his future so fun, because we know that he's a very rangy kickboxer. His dad was a Chilean kickboxer, and he's been doing this since he was just a kid. But now he's surrounding himself with fighters like Bilal Muhammad. Okay, actually, he frequents himself with Bilal Muhammad a lot as far as the training goes, and that's big because the more his cardio and wrestling steps up to that next level, I mean, what a complete fighter he will be. And we've seen some submission skills from him too, right? He just subbed Jalen Turner, caught him with a triangle. Okay, so he's showing that overall development as well. And, he's came a long way since his UFC debut, where he took an L to John McDessie. He was just a kid. He was just, he was over eager to deliver and bring on the war. He should have fought from the outside. I mean, he was fighting a fighter with T-Rex syndrome, and he was sitting in the pocket trading with him. It was a horrible decision to make, but he still showed the toughness in that fight too. You talk about another box that he checks off. He has an extreme chin, and he has big time toughness. Okay. So this is a fighter that's going to be there for you, right? He's not easy to finish. And that's important when you're fighting a fighter like Fiziev, who can throw some real damage towards your way. Okay. But we've still never seen Bahamundes knocked out. Okay. He's been subbed twice, but Fiziev is not really a threat there. Only one sub out of his 12 victories. And Fiziev, even though he's 32 years old and looks to be like a bodybuilder, looks to come in phenomenal shape, took that rematch against Justin Gaethje on short notice. He fell short once again in the later rounds. And I think that wasn't just due to the fact that he took that fight on short notice, because we saw it the first time around when he had a full camp. He does kind of slow down in those types of fights. And I think that Bahamundes can have a lot of success late in this fight if he doesn't get the early finish, which I think that he's live for the early finish. We saw him injured in that fight with Mateusz Gamrot. So, I mean, if you want to keep an eye on the injuries, you know, he had the leg injury there. He had surgery. He was away for a while. And I know that he was coming into that rematch with Gaethje off the layoff and off the surgery and the injury and all that. So, I don't know, man. He's had some solid victories, but I just don't put too much merit into his resume when you actually dive back into it. I think that it doesn't look as good as maybe it once did. I think that it's a little bit more, a lot of the credit he gets is more based off the fact that he's kind of a flashy, he's technical. He's very technical and flashy striker. And he looks the part, but what has he really proven? And he got a late stoppage on an older RDA. I always bring up the story. I'll throw it to you again. I remember jumping out of the shower, the first fight of the event there. It took place in Abu Dhabi. It was a daytime card in his UFC debut against Magomed Mustafayev. He was finished in the first round. Let's not completely forget about that. Yeah, he has a finish over Renato Moicano. We'll give him credit for that. And the finish over Brad Riddell, who was contemplating retirement. But I think I'm being very clear here. I like Ignacio Bahamundes. I think he gets the job done. He's a minus 103, currently a minus 105. And I think that he should be more like a minus 175, 170. I think that Bahamundes is the fighter here that should be a way bigger favorite. If you want to take into consideration the fact that Fiziev will have the crowd edge behind him, and if it goes to the judges' scorecards, you could do that. But even then, there's a great likelihood that we see a finish in this fight. And even if it goes to the judges' scorecards, I think Ignacio will convincingly be ahead. And take a look real quick at the reach advantage. Ignacio will have about a 4-inch reach advantage. He's 7 inches taller. All right. So, and he's tough as nails. Give me Ignacio to get I'm going to say he wins a decision victory. I'm going to give Fiziev the benefit of the doubt that he makes it to the final bell. We may see him get knocked out though. I'm teasing you guys there. I'm kind of doing a double whammy. I think the knockout's live too. I don't care. I'm doing it. I'm giving you guys two methods. And that takes us to the main event. We got a light heavyweight scrap between the number 4th ranked Jamahal Hill and the number 7th ranked Khalil Roundtree. This should be a fun fight, man. Should be a striker's delight, as I like to call it. I really think that these guys are going to throw down. And right off the rip, you got to understand that Jamahal Hill has been knocked out or finished in all 3 of his losses. Of course, there was the chicken wing incident that happened with Paul Craig. It was a TKO stoppage due to the chicken wing dangling. Okay, but his other losses, his 2 most recent fights, come by way of being finished by strikes. Okay, it was by the cream of the crop, right? Yuri Prohaska and Alex Pereira. But you have to really take that into consideration that if he's hit with some big strikes in this match, how is he going to hold up? Because Khalil Roundtree is a technician, and he's a fighter that has gotten much better throughout the years. Okay, you take a look back in the day. I mean, he was a fighter that was getting ran through by Johnny Walker. He got hit with the elbow there. I think that was in the clinch, right? He caught him with the nasty elbow. He got knocked out by Ian Cutelaba. He lost to Marcin Prachnio. I mean, there's been some really questionable losses early on in his career. Tyson Pedro submitted him. Andrew Sanchez finished him there on The Ultimate Fighter. On The Ultimate Fighter, he also lost to Corey Hendricks. I mean, he was learning the game, right? But we even saw back then, because there was some sprinkled victories that he had there where we saw the raw power, right? I think it was the Josh Stansberry victory, I believe it was, or it might have been the Mo DeReese one actually, where he was just beating him down, dude. And it looked like a high school fight with just a complete one-sided smashing where there was nobody to break it up and someone was just getting mollywopped. All right, it was brutal. So we saw some of that potential even from back then, and then we saw him sprinkle in some respectable victories, like when he defeated Paul Craig or when he knocked out the former K1 striker Gokhan Saki. Okay, we started to see some development a little bit sprinkled in. All right, the Modestus Bukauskas TKO, where he hit him with the sidekick and like hyperextended the leg. That was one that really got the momentum going, which was the beginning of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fight winning streak, which led him to get that premature title shot against Alex Pereira. But some real momentum was going on. There was finishes going on. And I think for sure, right around now, we'll see if he takes a step back, but going into the Alex Pereira fight, and in that fight, that was the peak version of Roundtree. At 35 years old, this is the best version that we've ever seen from him. And his striking is dangerous. I mean, I guess let me also just say the Eric Anders fight was nasty. The Eric Anders fight was crazy. The way he was using the Muay Thai skills in that fight. And I think that he's going to inflict damage on Jamahal Hill. If he doesn't get caught with a knockout from the big power that Hill possesses as well, I think that it's more likely we see Hill break down in this fight. Okay, this is a 5-rounder, a 25-minute fight in a main event. And I don't know how Hill is going to hold up in those exchanges. Hill has that big power, but he's not as technical. He's a little sloppy, especially defensively. You guys know he has those big old boats for feet. We saw him get caught up on them against Alex Pereira. And, he tried to make excuses for why he got knocked out. We all know that that was just a legitimate KO where he's just wasn't on the level of a Pereira. And I don't know if he's on the level of Khalil Roundtree when you actually look at their striking technically. Okay, you look at the way that they're moving. Now, I will say this, though. Hill brings in some serious traits, some serious power, a 79-inch wingspan. Okay, he's going to have a 2.5-inch reach, and he's live to land his own KO. All right, and he's quick for his size. He's got some good athleticism and quick twitch movement. But I think that Roundtree has shown, especially as of recently, that he's very durable. I think he'll weather through that, and it'll be Hill that breaks down and gets finished in this fight. And I'll say Khalil Roundtree gets a TKO stoppage over Jamahal Hill. I don't think that Hill gets flatlined, but I think the damage ends up piling up, and the ref steps in. So give me Khalil Roundtree to win the main event. Right now, Roundtree is a -165, opened up as a -155. Just a little minuscule movement coming down his way here, but I think that's a very accurate line. I like Khalil Roundtree right around there. I like Khalil Roundtree anywhere up to like a -180. Once you get past that, I think you may be pushing it. Then you're talking about value on Hill, who you don't want to completely overlook. He's going to be very motivated for this fight coming off those 2 losses, but we'll see if he has made adjustments technically to be able to hang with a fighter like Roundtree in a 25-minute fight. Give me Roundtree via TKO. All right, guys, that's going to wrap this one up. As always, don't forget, if any of you guys want my official targets, reach out to me. You guys can reach out to me for any feedback you have about the show, any recommendations. Shoot me a DM on IG, email me. It's all popping up below, and it's always much appreciated. Got to leave you guys with some parting words. I'll throw this one out there. I try to mix it up. I know that we have a variety of people listening, right? Older people, younger people, but I know we do have a good amount of younger people, especially younger than me as I'm getting up there these days. My back's hurting over here. And I say that jokingly because actually my back's not hurting. And I'll kind of mix this into my closing thoughts. I remember hearing a lot of people, specifically some friends that don't take care of themselves as much as they should, that are a little bit older than me. I remember them telling me, and you know what, this is actually gonna be the closing thought. I'll hit you with the next one. What I was gonna say, I'll hit you with that in the next video, because now I'm on this. I remember some of these dudes telling me, oh, wait till you hit your mid-30s. Oh my God, it's all downhill. Your whole body's just going to be aching, man, when I get out of bed. Oh, you'll see. They would tell me this as I was creeping into my 30s, when I was hitting 30 or whatnot. As some of my older friends were already like 35, 36. And, and I already knew then, the people that were telling me this, I'm taking a look at them, and I already, I know them very, very closely. They never really took care of themselves. They don't eat well. They don't exercise regularly. And I kind of knew even then, I'm like, yeah, that's because you don't take care of yourself. I'm not going to be like that. I've always had a cocky attitude anyway. I like to live my life confident and kind of cocky too, to an extent. And I said that will never be me. And man, look, I'm getting up there in age. I caught up to them, and I feel better than I ever have. I really do, man. I feel better than I ever have. And yeah, I understand, like, technically when you're 24, 25, your ligaments are more fresh and your muscles are fresher. So like when I'm saying I feel better than I ever have, I don't know, maybe it's just like the complete package mentally. I've learned a lot of tricks to take care of myself better. If I ate the way that I'm eating now, if I ate like that when I was young, you know what I mean? If I didn't drink as much, like I'm not drinking as much now as I used to when I was younger. And like these little things that I've learned, man, I've cleaned up my diet so much, man. I'm on the Bobby approved. Anything I put in my body, I really deeply look at, and I feel it, man. I feel it. I've been kind of supplementing with creatine, which there's a lot of health benefits that have been more talked about. It used to be kind of looked down upon, and I feel it, man. I've been having vivid dreams again. I feel great. So I'll just give this out as my closing thoughts, especially for you youngsters. Get a leg up. Start taking care of yourself when you're young, and then you'll be Superman if you could start doing that now. All right. And even for you guys that are older, start taking care of yourself, and you'll feel great. And don't ever let people tell you that this is how you should feel, and don't fall in line with other people's routine. You guys know what I'm talking about, man. You're about to enter your prime. You're about to feel great. And it's a mental thing too, right? You think you feel great, you will feel great. All right. Seriously, you will feel better if you have that type of mentality. And I'm feeling great. And I hope you guys are all feeling great out there. I hope you guys all have a great fight week. I hope you guys smash this card, make a bunch of money on it. And I wish you guys all well out there. Signing out. Teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller.